Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Louis Kofsky.
Hi everyone, my name is Louis Kofsky, and I was the executive producer and creative director on a game called Deepak Chopra's Leela. I apologize in advance, I'm going to be moving through a lot of slides. I've never presented this game without actually presenting the game. So I'm going to run through a lot of things, and I'm really going to try to touch on both the creative aspects to making this game, many of the commercial aspects in what it takes to create a mainstream game for change, as well as sort of our impact metrics, or really what we were setting out to do to try to make change within the world. So I'm going to click through. I've got a couple double clicks. So I spent a year or two working under the thesis of how to create a game to evolve consciousness, or how to make people more aware about the world in which they live and how to engage in it to make change. I had worked many years in documentary film, and we had come to the conclusion that film was not nearly as powerful as games. And so we came across this gentleman, Deepak Chopra, who has a pretty widespread reach. He's written many books, gives a lot of lectures, TV shows, and has a pretty deep social reach, media presence, radio shows. And so we partnered with him to sort of understand what kind of game we could make together. And we started looking at many games that were out in the marketplace that maybe tied into sort of many of his teachings, or games that would maybe allow people to see the world in a different way, or just creative games that really inspired people. So we looked at games like Eden, Godfinger, Grow, Flow. There were a lot of really exciting visual experiences, and some of them with interesting messages, you know, sort of Sims and things like that, that allowed you to engage in the world in a new and interesting way. And as we were going through this, we really came up with a new thesis of how to create a gaming experience that really gives people sort of the essence of a spiritual experience, or how to allow people to connect to, sort of listen to themselves and understand that, well, really they do have the power to do what they want, or they do have the ability to take their own happiness into their own hands. So pretty abstract concept. And so we started honing down, and we came up with the idea of calling it Leela, which is the Sanskrit word for play, or the infinite play of everything that you do in life. And we set out to make a game that combined traditional gameplay, sort of a spiritual Tetris, with ancient wisdom traditions, or meditative traditions. And our goal really was to allow people to dial into a flow state, which I think is something that you've heard a lot about in this conference, and allow people to sort of find their inner balance through play. So the game released last November 11th, and it was titled on the Kinect, the Wii, and we originally set it out on the DS, but that went the way of many DS titles. And the game was, I'm going to talk more about what the actual game is in a moment, but the game, when we presented it to many of the publishers, they saw it as sort of a new genre game, a lifestyle genre of game. And our mantra throughout making the game was for soccer moms and stoner dudes. It was like ranging that spectrum, and we were leveraging traditional Deepak fans. We were also going after core gamers. We really were seeking to create an innovative indie game as well that people would be drawn to. And we also sort of had this mantra: anyone that you see carrying a yoga mat, anyone that went to church at one time and no longer went, we wanted to create something that would appeal to them. And we also saw this emerging market, movies like Eat, Pray, Love, The Secret, What the Bleep Do We Know, and many lesser known things, and then larger trends that you see in society of people looking for sort of a neo-spirituality or awareness in their lives. So what is the game? I'm going to roll a quick 60-second teaser video, which is how it was ultimately marketed. I apologize for all the corporate graphics.
For everyone. Don't let the world out there affect you in here. Welcome to Deepak Chopra's Leela. Leela is a journey of mind and body through play. There are 7 chakras, which are energy centers within each of us. Each chakra relates to a different part of our body, mind, and spirit. Gentle motion is all that is needed to awaken the chakras. Balance the creative forces that shape the earth. Try connecting to the navel chakra by building energy between your hands and then launching fireballs, or travel through a tunnel of light, engaging your third eye chakra. 7 chakras, 7 movements, over 40 levels of gameplay. Deepak Chopra's Leela, Body, Mind, Spirit, Play, November 11th.
So as you can see, the game was based, the core idea of the game was this idea of the chakras, which are sort of a metaphor or a way of understanding human relation to the world. And it's an ancient wisdom tradition. It's also sort of a neo-spirituality. And so each of the chakras has different themes. They're related to different parts of the body. So throughout making the game, that gave us a framework to work within. So if you had a game based on the third eye chakra, you would control it where your third eye would be, or the root chakra. You actually swung your hips left and right and controlled the game that way. There were colors, sounds, patterns that were associated with that. And one of our key sort of principles in designing the game was this idea of meditative motion, rhythmic interaction. And there's many meditations and drumming and sound work that enable you to get into sort of a meditative state through those things. So we brought that to the video game world. A second idea was we worked with were ecosystems, and the idea of nurturing a system and understanding your connection within that system, and allowing people to understand deeper meaning through just simple play. And we also had this idea that there was no winning or losing condition. Deepak, who was very involved throughout the process, sort of said, we're not going to be collecting points as you traditionally would with a game, but in this you're collecting experience. So there was never any losing condition to any of the games, but there was a measure of challenge, and so we were constantly walking that line between creating a toy and creating an actual gaming experience. And then a third key principle that we worked with throughout the game development was interconnectedness, and the idea that everything's interconnected and there's a relationship between parts and wholes, micro and macro. And so we sort of wove these ideas throughout the game. We ended up creating something like 500 prototypes for the 7 mini games, and we're just constantly testing, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. There was also a second half of the game. There was an active, playful side, and then there was a more passive, reflective side, where we used sort of ancient traditions. We introduced people to 7 different types of guided meditations. There was also traditional, more advanced stillness meditations where you would sit and be quiet with different soundscapes and different lengths of time. And then we also did something pretty interesting where we are actually able to use the Kinect to sense your breathing and display it for you on screen. The general principle there is to calm the mind. The heart is what actually regulates the mind. And the best way to regulate the heart and calm the heart is through breathing. So rather than just going right in and trying to calm people down, we had them do breathing exercises, which would then calm their heart, which would then in turn control their mind. So this came out of, again, a lot of scientific work that Deepak had followed over the years. And so we sort of honed in after looking at many brain sensors, heart rate monitors, and a number of different ways to go about it. We realized that the answer was right there in front of us, and using the Kinect in an interesting way. And then throughout the game, we wove in a lot of different teachings from a lot of Deepak's friends, between science and spirituality. Just sort of things that, I don't know if anyone's ever played the World of Goo or many games that just sort of have little ideas that are woven in that either help you play better or just something sort of like the Yogi Tea fortune cookie that you take with you as you play. So this is a video that introduces the 7 parts of the game, and I'll just roll that and talk more about it in a moment.
Inspired by ancient traditions, 7 movements are games based on the ancient system of the chakras. Origin. You have to balance the planting of seeds and larger geologic events
of how the person moves to control the game. There was a corresponding version on the Wii.
You explore an underwater world,
but it was really primarily a Kinect game that we were designing.
Twist your hips to steer your creature. To complete this movement, create a line between every seed and the nest. Power. Throw fireballs to blow up rocks and transform gems.
So here's the traditional chi ball, which is where the third chakra is.
Steer from one air current to the next.
Where the heart is in the body.
To complete this movement,
this is actually tuned to the key of love.
And transfer it to the top of the screen. Harmony. You time your waves, creating harmonic chain reactions. Intuition. Navigate down a channel of light. Collect icons of the same color. To be successful, you have to turn off your mind and feel the patterns coming to you. Unity. Glide from gate to gate, steering up and down. In addition to the active movements, Leela has a second, more reflective side. The guided meditation section offers 7 different meditations, led by Deepak, which teach the fundamentals of an awareness meditation practice. The stillness meditation uses Kinect technology to sense your breathing and visualize it for you. 7 different breath meditations teach you how to improve balance and well-being. Mandalas are a form of visual meditation which help you to access your true self. When you create your unique personal mandala, it is also your in-game avatar. You can send your mandala to the Leela Mandala Facebook app, where you can further customize and share it with friends. All of the activities within Leela are good for you, and Leela can be part of a meaningful practice that begins today.
So that was sort of the more detailed video that was used, again, for marketing purposes. And the overall takeaway of the game, really what we were setting out to do was to really just create a space and create an environment that we don't have in our daily lives necessarily, for people to just be alert, be aware in the present moment, and tap into the goodness that exists around them. So, relatively esoteric concept. I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about our success, but first I want to talk about the process that we went about. We had about 100 people that worked on the game. We had more of like a film production model where we brought experts in for different phases of the process. We had a core team of maybe 12 that saw the game from start to finish, ranging from part-time, very, very senior designers to more junior designers that really shepherded the process through and went throughout it. And then we had a huge team of content experts, meditation people, yoga people, sound people, all kinds of different graphical consultants that came in and taught us how to do things like design mandalas and draw sacred geometry. The team went into a lot of different classes, deep immersion and study. We actually brought our publishers out to Brooklyn to a studio and did sound ceremonies. Deepak and his whole crew were very involved, and he was constantly introducing us to new people that could come in, give us new ideas, different technologies and science that he was aware of that we would work with. We hooked people up to EEG and heart rate monitors while we were playing with them. We did a lot of focus groups, tons and tons and tons of testing. Then we used some classic tricks like isochronic tones, which are sort of a non-headphone based binaural beat, which focuses on entraining your body's rhythms to get into these measurable meditative states. And again, rapid prototyping. We just kept testing and testing and testing, and the classic balance of impact versus entertainment. We were constantly working on that. So the key takeaways, looking at it all at the end, I think our biggest challenge was the platform. We had a thesis that this would be going out to people, moms that maybe had the Kinect, and would be using it in the evenings or during the day when their kids were off at school. I think, in reflection, we were in the middle of a big shift away from traditional consoles, more to a tablet-based gaming platforms. So I think that was a big challenge for us, was the platform. Another thing that we really learned throughout was to really listen to the audience and to really be tuned in to the types of experiences that people are ready for and are looking for. Working hand in hand with marketing to make a commercially successful product is super important, both in terms of educating the marketing team and in terms of framing the message of what you're setting out to do in terms that the mass market can really understand. We also are seeing publishing models are rapidly changing, as far as the large publishers are obviously sort of shifting their presence, and we've seen a lot happening with the different online stores and all of that. Another really important lesson was that tutorials are really just as important as the game in terms of teaching people what this experience is. When you're creating something that's so different and there's not a similar to out there, educating people and holding their hands through the first time process was something that I think we really underestimated. And then last, but sort of at the core of every game for change, is the eternal balance between entertainment and content or impact in terms of engaging people in a fun experience while at the same time feeding them new and challenging things to see the world in a different way. So that's my 15 minutes. I encourage you, you can email me. The slides will be up on SlideShare. And if I'm based here in New York, if anyone has any questions or would like to talk more about it, I'll definitely make myself available. Thank you very much.